We are on episode 5 of season 2 of Sanditon. We are getting very close, and season 3 is around the corner, coming in March 2023. I can't wait for that. We should get started on episode 5.
It has been weeks since your last letter, and I cannot account for your silence. I beg you to put my mind at rest.
Esther is writing a letter to Lord Babington. I'm pretty sure this is like the second or third or multiple times of her trying to write her husband, trying to figure out why he hasn't write back to her. Hopefully it's not bad news, hopefully not for a bad reason. But us, as the viewers, like, we already know that Edward is behind what's going on between Lord Babington and Esther. He's keeping all the letters from Esther's husband away from her, so she would think that her husband is ignoring her, avoiding her, basically abandoning her, and just not be in a marriage with her. And that's what she is thinking right now. But we also know that Edward had been poisoning her, and that is not good.
I'm taking Dr. Fuchs's tincture to make me stronger, so I can be the woman you deserve. Please send word that all is well. That you have not forgotten your loving wife.
Esther, unfortunately, she doesn't know that Edward is poisoning her, so she keeps drinking and drinking the poison that he's been setting up upon her. But I do want to talk a bit about what she said, though. The woman that Lord Babington deserves, she wants to get pregnant again because she does want to have kids with her husband. That's like the dream, the goal as a married couple, is to have kids. But at the same time, there's another side to that. Like, part of her, she feels like she's not good enough to be a wife to her husband, that she's not the best wife, and that she's not the best mom to the future children. Just that lack of confidence and low self-esteem, that there's something wrong with her, and that she doesn't deserve to get pregnant and have kids with Lord Babington. I don't think he would think of that of her. He loves her so much, and I think we all saw that in season 1. He loves her so dearly and wants to be with her no matter what. But Edward, he is doing all these things behind the scene to attack her and attack her marriage with Lord Babington, and it's really messed up. But there's some personal battles that she's going through with herself at the same time, with this drama of Edward and Clara basically attacking her as one team.
I cannot stay here, Charlotte. I was willing to give him my heart, my life, and in return I almost drowned on account of his lies. My mind is made up. I leave tomorrow. What is left for me here?
You really cannot blame Allison, right? There was such an embarrassing moment for her, a really bad breakup, and Fraser witnessed the breakup between Allison and Carter, and that's just too much drama, very embarrassing for her. She got stabbed in the back by 2 men, even though Carter lies way heavier than what Fraser did to Allison. She is rushing to go home. She's done with Sanditon, because if she stays in Sanditon, she's gonna keep thinking about what happened to her this summer and the memories she made with Carter and Fraser, and how these 2 guys hurt her emotionally and mentally in their own different ways. So I don't blame Allison for leaving abruptly. She just really does want to see these 2 guys again, and she really wants to go through that post-breakup process, and she'd rather go through that process at home so she doesn't have to deal with seeing these 2 guys ever again.
Your sister, for one thing.
My sister, the governess, who I never see. But return with me. You cannot wish to work a moment longer for Mr. Colburn, given how he spoke to you.
I have a responsibility to the girls.
Remember in the beginning of season 2, Georgiana was walking with Charlotte to her job, and Charlotte stopped Georgiana and told her like, hey, like, let's stop here. I can walk the rest by myself to my job. Georgiana was a bit worried that Charlotte wouldn't have much time to spend time with her over the summer in Sanditon. Georgiana thought that the number one reason why Charlotte was in town was to accompany Georgiana and help her out with finding a future husband. And now Allison is saying the same thing, like, you haven't spent much time with me. Charlotte have become more independent in season 2, especially with her job as a governess for Mr. Heybourne. So, you know, there's that tough tug of war, like, she wants to do her own thing, Charlotte, but she does have friends and family that want to spend time and enjoy summer in Sanditon with, and those include Allison and Georgiana. Charlotte, though, she hasn't told anyone about her possible romantic feelings for Mr. Heybourne, and we all know that there's more than one reason why she's staying in Sanditon, not only for the two girls, but for Mr. Heybourne himself. She's keeping that as a secret to herself. She really doesn't want anyone to worry about it, especially after what happened with Sydney. She might go through that mental battle, like, is it too soon to fall for another guy after Sydney's death, right? But right now, Allison just feel like betrayed by those two guys. On top of that, she doesn't feel enough support from her sister, and she's like, you know what, you guys stay in Sanditon, I'm out of here, like, I'm done with this town.
At least come to the ball, if it is to be our last night.
So the whole town can laugh at my folly. And he will be there.
Alice.
Well, that's not good. So that shows that a lot of people, a good amount of people know what happened between Allison and Carter and how the breakup happened. So of course, that's why Allison is like embarrassed. Like, she wants to hide herself. She wants to get away, go back home where no one knows what happened back home. Everyone is Sanditon gossiping about her breakup with Carter, and going to the ball possibly will make herself look like a fool once again.
Whatever pain you feel now, and time will pass, the heart is more resilient than you think.
Charlotte wants her sister to go to the ball because just to have fun and to not let the breakup ruin her opportunity to have fun and go to the ball. But going through a breakup is really hard, it's really painful, and you're not emotionally, mentally ready to do anything fun. But it's always a good idea, right, to do something to take your mind off of the breakup. But I think the big problem about going to the ball is that even though you're trying to have fun, that person you just broke up with will be there. So I can understand Allison. At the same time, I can understand why Charlotte is trying to encourage her sister to go to the ball, despite that Carter would be there along with Fraser. She hasn't really talked much about Fraser in this conversation. It's really normal. I mean, it's obvious that she talks about Carter in this conversation, but he was the one that lied to her. But we haven't really get any comments or thoughts from Allison about how she feels now about Fraser after that breakup moment happened with Carter. But what Charlotte is saying to Allison right now, not only wisdom, sisterly advice, but it's coming from her experiences in love and her experience with Sydney. She went through a lot. She basically went through like a double breakup with Sydney when he decided to marry the other woman. That's the first breakup. And the second, I don't know, I wouldn't call it breakup, sorry. Two heartbreak. One, when Sydney decided to marry the other woman, and the second, when Sydney died unexpectedly. So Charlotte went through a lot, and what she's saying to Allison right now is coming from Charlotte's experiences with Sydney.
Indeed. I believe your own heart is all but healed. That is why you wish to stay in Sanditon. It is not for the sake of the job or for the girls. It is for him.
Okay, at first, like, if you watch this for the first time, you would have to think, like, oh no, like, does she know about Charlotte's feeling for Mr. Heybourne?
For whom?
You cannot hide it from your sister.
I'm not trying to hide anything.
Unlike Captain Carter, Colonel Lennox is a good man.
If it was Colonel Lennox that she really falling for, I think it would have been a different reaction from Charlotte in this scene. The way that Charlotte reacted after Allison said Colonel Lennox, she kind of like a bit shy. Like, she is aware that she had been talking to Colonel Lennox and everyone had been watching them mingle and talk to one another and getting closer and being friendly with one another. So I think she's like, okay, like, I can see that. But she didn't really like react to like, oh my goodness, like, how do you know? Like, she didn't blush, she didn't overreacted. Like, she just like kind of like quiet about it. So to me, it's like, okay, she just going along with it, allowing her sister to keep guessing, to keep believing that it's Colonel Lennox, but it's actually Mr. Heybourne. And she's just like, okay, I'm safer now. Like, okay, like, you know, like, no one has guessed it right. That's actually Mr. Heybourne that I might like more than Colonel Lennox. So if you watch it for the first time, I think it could have been like a little bit misleading, like, okay, is it Colonel Lennox or Mr. Heybourne? But watching it back, you really have to pay attention to those little cues coming from Charlotte of how she reacted to the mention of Colonel Lennox.
One of us deserves to find happiness.
It's really nice to hear Allison supporting her sister Charlotte to find love again and to stay in Sanditon just to find happiness and to find love again, especially after what happened with Sydney. So that's really nice to hear that from Allison at the end of this scene. But I wonder, you know, how would Allison feel if it was actually Mr. Heybourne, not Colonel Lennox, for Charlotte? Quick moment of Georgiana, I just wanted to point that out. Do you see her hair? Like, her hair is like free, like it's freedom. She very expressive. Is that a word? Like, she's just like confident to dress the way that she wants to dress up. She just confident in her own skin, in her own beauty. We never seen her hair puff out like that, and that's actually her natural beauty, and she is being confident in her own body, in her own beauty, and it's really powerful to see that. And she took a drawing of her that Lockhart drew of her the other day. She pulled it out. You can see that little smile that appeared on her face as she was looking at that drawing. You can tell that she is actually falling for the guy. Mr. Heybourne abruptly left the party with his niece at the end of episode 4, if you remember, and he got into a heated argument with Charlotte right before he took off with the carriage with his niece, and he told her to not hang out with Lennox anymore, and she's like, you don't tell me what to do, like, you don't have any control, no power over my life and what I should do or don't do. So what she said to Mr. Heybourne, it made him really upset. So the work relationship between Charlotte and Mr. Heybourne is not the greatest right now, and that's why she is avoiding him in this scene. She definitely not ready to face him. She really doesn't have the words to say to him at the moment, but we will definitely see them interact with one another later this episode.
What's the matter?
The ball. She believes a garden party thwarted any chances of Mr. Colburn letting her attend.
Well, naturally. For a man of Mr. Colburn's disposition, to be surrounded by happy company enjoying lively conversation, I think nothing could be more disagreeable.
Keep in mind, Charlotte is very opinionated. She does have a deep mind. She's a deep thinker. She thinks freely, and with that, she says things openly and freely, and most of the time without thinking before saying it. So this is truly her honesty about what she thinks of her boss. And saying that to Mrs. Whitley right now might not be a good idea.
Mind your tone, please, Miss Heywood. Mr. Colburn doesn't deserve to be spoken of with such contempt.
Forgive me. But the man I have seen...
And how long have you known him? There is more to Alexander Colburn than you can possibly imagine.
So basically what she said to Charlotte, do not judge Mr. Colburn very quickly. Do not judge him by the cover of his book. So there's more to the story, and Charlotte doesn't know. It's just a matter of if Mr. Colburn will tell her or not, and it's his choice. She had the right to tell her or not, but in the meantime, Charlotte does need to cover her butt, just to keep it to herself and just continue with her job and keep her opinions of him to herself and allow him to think about what happened between them, and especially at that party, and to give him the space to decide if he wants to tell her or not about what really happened in the past between him and Colonel Lennox.
Who knew weddings could be so extortionate? It's a good thing there won't be any flowers. All guests.
Alrighty, so Lady Denham is actually going along with it. She is accepting the idea of a wedding for Edward and Clara. I still don't believe this. Like, seriously, Lady Denham, stop the wedding. But the way that they are planning this wedding is basically kind of like elopement, just quick to the point, get it over with. There's not gonna be a big lavish wedding celebration after the ceremony. So this might be a hidden secretive wedding between Edward and Clara, and I think Lady Denham doesn't want to bring much attention to it at the same time, just because of the baby that was born technically out of wedlock. It happened before an actual marriage.
Esther, you look uncommonly pale.
I must confess, my thoughts are wayward. I cannot explain it.
Guys, I mess up Clara and Esther names all the time. Take two. What I was gonna say is that Clara is holding her baby like an actual mom, so that's a good progress right there. And then Esther is starting to show symptoms of her sickness from the poison that Edward had been spilling on purpose in her drinks, in her medication that her doctor had been prescribing to her to get pregnant again. So this is not good.
Has the post come yet this morning?
There's still nothing for you, I'm afraid. Perhaps Babington simply ran out of things to say. It happens in every marriage.
That's the Esther that we all know, that straight face, that serious face, asking if there's any mail for her from her husband, Lord Babington. She's definitely not happy to hear that from her aunt, that there's still no mail, no letters from her husband.
Oh, I'm sure it's not that, Aunt. Doubtless Lord Babington is preoccupied with his business affairs. I cannot believe it's anything more than that. It's highly unlikely he would have been led astray.
He's not you, Edward.
Edward, of course, always jumped in the midst of a conversation. You can definitely see the way he giving her the look, pretending like he's not doing anything, but he is actually doing something behind Esther's back. It's very, very evil of the things he's doing against her and her husband. He shouldn't involve her husband, but he is, and that's gonna be a double trouble for him when Esther does find out, if she ever finds out what he's been doing to her and the letters from her husband.
There'll be a good reason for his silence.
Of course there will.
Even though Edward is poisoning Esther, Esther hasn't lost her mind just yet, like not completely yet, so it's good. Like when she yelled at him, like we know Esther is still there, like she's still here with us. But Clara, on the other hand, she's trying to keep Esther calm, like the mediator between Edward and Esther, try to keep these two people on opposite sides and to keep them calm and just to not cause any more drama than it already is, especially with the wedding plans between Clara and Edward. Esther still has hope, like she still believes that her husband still loves her, like at least a little bit, but she's just confused as to why she hasn't received any letters from her husband lately. Whenever I see Edward, he gets on my nerve all the time. I'm sorry, I don't know the actor name, but he plays his character so well. That look he gave to his aunt without her looking at him, it's just one of those many evil looks that he gives in season 1 and season 2. Not only is he doing this behind Esther's back, but also his aunt. And Lady Denham loves her niece, like she supports Esther, and she was planning to give all the fortune down to Esther and her husband, Lord Babington, and the future kids. But now with this wedding, you know, like that big question mark, like, okay, when Lady Denham dies, like, you know, which one is gonna get the money? Clara gave that look to Edward. She's like, this is crazy, like, this is, you know, more than what she expected. I think Clara wouldn't have mind teaming up with Edward if it, like, you know, less pain for Esther, you know what I mean? Like, you know, don't do this like the hard way or the evil way. Like, you know, do it right, you know, do it justice. He doing like the cheating way, you know, the sneaky way, and it's becoming much more of a problem, especially with Clara, and that's why she gave him that look. Like, this is not right at all.
News of Miss Haywood? They say she has plans to return home tomorrow.
I knew it was lost. I'm quite sunk in her esteem, Fraser.
Deservedly so.
Okay, like, you know, Carter made a huge mistake with Allison, right? Now, like, keep an eye on him. Like, how is he reacting? How is he responding? If he is aware, he recognized, acknowledged that what he did was really wrong, and that he actually really truly lost a chance to be with Allison. There's no way of going back and fixing it. It's done for good.
But she should have an explanation.
Nothing would come of it. I've acted so foolishly.
And now your cowardice compounds the ill.
Seek her out. Explain yourself.
Okay, Fraser is giving him some advice to go to Allison and to talk it out and to give an explanation of why he acted like that, why he lied to her. Part of me, I mean, that's like so nice of Fraser to say, because Fraser liked Allison too. Like, if I was him, like, I wouldn't even like bother talking to him about this anymore and encouraging him to talk to Allison and try to make it right. At least like a formal apology. I think that's what Fraser trying to encourage him in this scene. Like, you know, even if she does say no to you, like, at least, you know, make a formal apology and let her know that you are aware that you made a huge mistake and you did really bad things to her and that you are truly sorry.
Why should she end her summer on account of your fictions? Consider her contentment, Will, not your own glib suit.
Fraser hears about Allison's happiness, and that is one of the reasons why he's talking to Harder right now, trying to encourage him to go to Allison and apologize and make it right. But Harder doesn't seem interested in asking Allison for forgiveness and apologizing. He's not being proactive.
Do you really think she wants to end her summer in Willington?
Where?
The village where she is from.
Is it? Oh.
When Fraser mentioned about Allison's hometown, Harder seemed to be a bit disturbed by that. Like, he showed like a sign of disgust, like, oh, she's from there, like that's like a farm town, like is she the daughter of a farmer, you know? Like, he wasn't impressed by that. So that's another red flag coming from Harder. It's like he doesn't deserve Allison, you know? He rather have a rich girl, I guess. He rather marry a girl that is coming from a rich family. It looks like he has his own high standards, and some of those standards are foolish. So it's kind of like wherever Allison is from, she is from Willington, so that's like lower class for him. Like, that's like a low standard for him, like out of his league. So that definitely shows that he's like, okay, like I'm done with Allison, not interested in her anymore. Also, because Harder didn't pay attention or didn't know where Allison is from, just showed that he really never truly learned about her or even like asked her a question about where she from and what she like. So that's, you know, a big sign, especially to Allison, like he's not the right guy for you. And Fraser, on the other hand, he doesn't seem to care that Allison is from that hometown, so it just shows that it really doesn't matter to Fraser, but it mattered to Harder, and that's why he reacted like, oh, like, you know, he wasn't impressed, and it shouldn't matter. I mean, you know, there are far more important things about a person in a relationship that you should like focus on. Like, you know, you shouldn't, you know, not be with someone just because they're from a farming town. That's kind of like what you call it, kind of like segregation. I don't know what the word, like, you know, you judging someone and you're like, oh, you're not good enough because you're from a farming town. That's how I pick up from the way that Harder reacted when Fraser told him where Allison is from.
A frank apology is the remedy that she needs, that honor demands. William!
Reconcile yourself to her departure. I must.
Fraser calling Harder by his first name, I mean, it's serious. Like, he really, really wanted Harder to apologize to Allison, but Harder's like, you know, you taught her, like, you know, she all yours. So it just shows who Harder is as a man. Like, he's not the best guy for Allison. Fraser, now, like, the ball is in his court. Like, he can redeem himself and get a second chance to be with Allison. Will he talk to her, you know? I just hope that if he does talk to her, that it's more about Fraser and Allison, not talk about Harder. Fraser shouldn't apologize to Allison on behalf of Harder. He shouldn't. We'll see if Fraser will talk to Allison.
Sir.
Leonora, will you leave us?
She's still her boss, so she still give him that proper, respectful greeting. Leonora, like, she's not dashed a bit. Like, she's like, okay, this sounds really serious. And then she looked both ways, like, okay, I will leave. Like, like maybe something happened between my dad and Miss Haywood. So this is the first time that Mr. Heybourne and Charlotte talk ever since that dramatic argument at the end of the archery competition.
Miss Haywood, I don't believe we've exchanged a word since...
Lady Dennis.
Yes.
Interesting, straight to the point. Basically, like, Lady Denham, so it's kind of like signaling him, like, right, that was the last time we talked, and that happened, we said that, like, it was a really bad goodbye, and awkwardness began, and, keeping away from each other, while Charlotte trying to avoid her boss earlier this morning, before she headed into work. But now she can't avoid him, and she's like, okay, like, do I really want to talk to him? Like, do I have anything to say? Like, what he gonna say to me? But she's very bold, like, she's very confrontational, like, she confronts right away. Like, she doesn't really go around the bush. She's like, Lady Denham, and Mr. Heybourne, like, right. Like, let's get to it. And this is a very interesting conversation between these two.
I wanted to say that I regret the way that we parted. I didn't mean to cause offence.
You wish to apologise?
I cannot.
I don't blame Charlotte. I mean, it sounded like an apology was coming from him to her. So he does acknowledge that the way that they got into the argument and the way that they ended the argument, that conversation, wasn't the best. It was very impactful for the both of them, and that was like the most tough argument that they ever had, the most tough disagreement that they ever had since the employment of Charlotte at this household. So Charlotte started to feel confused, like, okay, like, if you regret and you're not apologizing, so you don't really mean what you say right now to me.
Or explain.
Explain what?
Your behaviour at the garden party.
Charlotte is losing a bit of patience, so she's just like, you know what, let me ask him, like, why are you acting like that? Like, why you acted like that at the garden party? And Mr. Heybourne is struggling to say it, and it shows that it's whatever happened in the past with Hona Lennox and Mr. Heybourne's wife, if he say anything to Charlotte, like his side of the story, Mr. Heybourne will relieve that experience again, all over again. The emotion would come back, the heartbreak would come back. It's in the past that he doesn't want to, relive it again and, tell the story all over again to Charlotte. Does she deserve to know? I think at this point she does, because she's very involved with Lennox and Mr. Heybourne. And Lennox, already told her his side of the story. So Charlotte does deserve to know Mr. Heybourne's side of the story. But at the same time, if Mr. Heybourne's late wife and that's his past, that's his life stories, he does have the right to tell Charlotte or not. But I do understand why Charlotte is reacting like this. Like, explain to me why you behave like that at the party. Like, I don't understand. She have every right to express her feelings about that to him, and it's just a matter if he, gonna trust her and tell her his side of the story.
You have not one word to say.
You have no right to demand one. Just stay away from that man.
It's like they attack each other, like, on the same level, like, you say it, you say it, you say it, you say it, but he never tell her in the scene, so, it's still a mystery to her. He really does need to tell her, because then she would be more understanding of what really happened in the past. It's kind of like he being distant from Charlotte, far away from her when it comes to this topic, and this might affect their work relationship, and more than that, this might destroy the friendship that is already starting to form between these two. The ball is in Mr. Holburn's court right now, and he needs to make a decision if he should tell her or not. At the same time, what Mrs. Whitley said early in the morning, in the beginning of her workday, before this conversation, she told Charlotte, don't judge him, don't judge him right away. There's more to Mr. Holburn. He's a nice guy, he's a nice father, and a nice uncle. He's not a bad guy, and you don't know until he tells you. And again, now the ball is in his court, and he needs to make that decision to tell Charlotte, and hopefully he does, because then I think everything will resolve on its own. It's just that one big question mark left, which is Mr. Holburn's story, why he is so bitter against Lennox, and what really happened between Alexander and Lennox, and Alexander's late wife.
Alison, a scarlet coat. Tell him I cannot see him.
Allison did not want to see Harder, totally understandable.
It's only you.
I think she was very relieved to see Fraser only. I think she was happy too at the same time. The mistakes of Harder is much greater than Fraser, so she shouldn't be mad at Fraser as much as she is toward Harder. Again, Fraser shouldn't apologize to Allison for Harder's mistake. The only thing he should be apologizing is what Fraser did wrong against Allison, which was not telling Allison about Harder's lies. But I think at the same time, I think she is aware that she had been courting Fraser. I guess what I'm trying to say, Harder was the puppet and Fraser was behind the scene, but the true match reveal is actually Fraser. So I think she is aware that her and Fraser have some common interests, and I think she would be interested to get to know Fraser more and to actually, date him and possibly settling down with him. But first we'll see what the conversation will, be about in the next video. Fraser is not giving up on Allison. Overall, he's not, and I think he wants to make it right with Allison, between himself and her, and also to keep and maintain that friendship, and also the fact that he doesn't want her to end her summer back in the hometown. I think he wants her to, stay here in Sanditon, of course, especially if he still likes her, and also that he doesn't want her to, feel that heartbreak, the heaviness, from this breakup with Harder. He really wants to, make her feel better in any way that he can.